Okay, welcome. Thank you for attending. I will start by introducing myself. So my name is Rui Romano. I'm from Portugal. I work at a company called DevScope, where I lead the business intelligence team. I'm a data architect, data engineer. I'm a Power BI addict. Work with Microsoft BI data platform for 15 years. Below you can find these are my contacts, and I also I co-founded a Power BI community in Portugal, call it Power BI Portugal. So if you want to learn more about it, please join. I'm also Microsoft Data Platform MVP, and today I bring you a session called Power BI Monitoring 101. And the goal of this session is just to make you aware of what you can do in terms of Power BI monitoring, why you need it. Then I'll go straight to the demo and show you what you can do with this monitoring data, and then I will briefly show you how to do it, because this is a 45-minute session, so I don't have much time to go in much detail. Don't worry about the learning everything. So it will be kind of fast-paced at that stage, but I will share. Just drop me an email, and I will share the code and the report with you, and help you to set up all of this. Okay. So if you are a Power BI developer, or a Power BI administrator, or an IT administrator in a company, and you cannot answer these questions, like what's the most active user in Power BI in your organization? How many distinct users you have per day or per hour? And this is a very important question. For example, if you have Power BI Premium, because this is actually you need to know. And when you go to Premium, you can go to Premium because of the number of users, because of licensing, but also because of the active users. So it's very important to know how much of the 1,000 users are using Power BI in a single hour, and this will help you making a decision if you need a P1 or a P2 or a P4. So, and using the monitoring data, you can easily get this information. How is the content being shared? Are your developers using workspaces or apps? Maybe you defined a strategy to every time you want to broadcast a Power BI reports into the company is through apps, and then using the monitoring data, you'll realize that a lot of users are using workspaces, or even worse, they are using published web. Are you using published web? Did you disable it? What does exist in the personal workspaces? Do they use it? Do they share content from the personal workspace to other users? What's the top user data sources? It's file system, it's OneDrive, it's SQL Server. For example, I had a customer that didn't allow any Power BI development using local files, because a local file, if there is a problem in the laptop or if the people leave the company, it will be a problem. So they wanted to enforce everyone to use OneDrive. And using the monitoring data, you can realize if there is any data source coming from a local file system and not OneDrive. Which report is used every day by everyone? What's the top used report? What's the most used report? Do your users come access Power BI from the browser or mobile or Excel? Which browser? Do they use Edge or Chrome? Because when you are doing some debugging, or when you have a problem in your report, it's important to know what's the most used browser inside the company. That's probably the browser that you should use. I don't know if that's still happening, but I know that in the past I had a problem with Firefox and Power BI. So every time I opened the report, it seemed slow, and it was because of the browser, not actually because of Power BI. I don't know if that's still happening, but in the past that happened to me. Our data sets and reports. looking at the no activity, do you have a report that gave you a lot of work? It gives you a lot of work in maintenance, in support, and no one is using that report for more than a year. So it's also important not only to monitoring what is used, but also what's not used. And maybe you are spending a lot of money in supporting and time in supporting that report. And maybe that report is not so important as you think it is. And in the last, but also very important, licensing. How many users with a paid license actually don't use Power BI in more than 3 months or in more than a year? And maybe you have other users that actually want to use Power BI and you run out of licenses, and then you cannot, and you don't assign a license because of it. So if you cannot answer these questions and you are in a role that actually need to answer these questions, then I can tell you that you are literally driving blind, and there is certainly a big reality check ahead of you. So you need to look at this data. And one thing that I've done all my career is always to do the BI of the BI. So in the past, for example, in the age of reporting services and performance point, we always build some kind of, we always collect this data from the platform and do the BI of the actual BI platform and monitor what's the most used reports, what's the most active user, which queries do they do. So I think this is really important, and it's really important to do from day one, and then look at this data. So it's not just do it, it's do it and look at it. And maybe you will give priority to different things if you don't do it. Okay. So what's available out of the box? So if you want to do it today and you just want to do it right away, there is some out of the box solutions in Power BI that you can use. The first one is the most known one, is the Power BI report usage. If you go to a report and you click on these 3 points, you have this option, open usage metrics, and this will give you a report like this. And in this report, you are able to see the amount of report views, the unique viewers, what's the trend in terms of usage, are they using, what's the platform, which pages are mostly used. And the page information is actually something that in the solution that I will give you, I cannot go this level. So I only go to the level of the reports because we will use another source of data. So this is one of the advantage of the out of the box solution. Now the disadvantage of this out of the box solution is it only gives you 7 days of data, and it's workspace level. It's at the workspace level. So what this means is if you have 100 workspaces and you want to monitor all, you cannot do it. So you need to do it. You need to look at this report workspace by workspace. And in large enterprise scenarios, this is very, it won't work. Okay. Now you at the tenant level, you also have a usage metrics admin in admin portal. It's at the tenant level. So in here, you'll see information for the entire tenant. But the problem is this doesn't have a lot of interactivity. So it just gives you some high level information, and you don't have control in the refresh of this. So I don't know if this refreshes by day or by hour, but you don't have control out of it. But nevertheless, it's better than nothing. So if you don't do nothing, if you are not doing anything, so please do this at least. Now, what I'm going to show you is actually a Power BI report. It has a lot of information in here, not only in the activity, but also on the catalog. So when I talk about the activity, is the actual usage. So if a user sees a report, there is an activity log saying with an operation called view report at a specific date and time, with the client IP, with the user agent. So this is the activity overview. And then I also have a catalog overview. So in here, I will go to the entire tenant and fetch all the workspaces that exist in the current tenant and get this information. And this is the catalog. So this is the workspaces, the dashboards, the reports, the data sets, and also the users and licenses. So I can now, and in here, I'm going to use another source of information to get this information, this data. But this is a single Power BI report that can give you all of this information in only one report. And then I will show you how to build it. So let me demo it. So this is the report. Let's start with the activity and what you can do with this report. Let me just have more space in here. So the activity, this first chart over here is just a trend chart. So I'm just looking at the amount of logs. So between this period, since November last year until yesterday, this is just the log count. I have 66,000 logs or activity logs, and this is a trend. So I actually have a upper trend to the usage. I'm using an amazing feature that is available out of the box in Power BI, that is the anomaly detection. So I can see that there are some anomaly points, so some not normal usage in these specific days. And I can actually click it and maybe get some explanation why this has, why this is considered an anomaly. So actually, I'm not getting. Sometimes it gives me an explanation by, okay, it's because of this user, so I'm not getting it, but at least I can see that, okay, on this day, that is it was an unexpectedly high usage. It has a value of 1,493 logs. That is above of the expected. It was between 258 and 762. So this is an amazing feature that's out of the box. I just need to build a line chart and configure this line chart to use the find anomalies feature in Power BI. Now, then I have some high-level KPIs, so the amount of logs, and these two are very important. So how many distinct users since ever I start collecting this data exist in my company? And I can see that I have 88 distinct users, but in a single day, I only have 19. So every day since November, I never had more than 19 users using Power BI in a single day. So this is a very important measure to know. So I only have 19. And if we go to the hour, I never add more than 16 in a single hour. So at 9 a.m., I have 16 now. I have the maximum of 16 users, but the average is 5. So, and I can see that in my company, normally the users use Power BI mostly in the morning and in the afternoon. But I have a very low usage in this tenant. So it's around the average, it's around 6 or 5, and the maximum never went more than 16 per hour. So if I have a premium capacity, this is a very, very important information to know. And in here, I have all the activities from the activity log. So the view reports, the export activity events, and this is Power BI, so I can click here and I can see what is doing export activity events. So this is exporting data from my tenant, and I can see that I have 2. I can see right away this is 2 service principals. Mostly they are being used in February, and this is normal because I started collecting this data in February. So, and there are a lot of events in here. So one of the most important ones as a Power BI admin is published web. So I can go to the filter pane and just search here. So published web. So who is doing published web inside my company? You can see that Maria just published 6 times, 6 reports in published web. Is Maria allowed? Do I know about this? So as a Power BI admin, so this is what you can do, just filtering the activity. Now, this chart or this visual over here is also very important because I can see a lot of information in here. So first, I'm seeing by month. I can go, of course, I can go by day and see and do a drill down. Let's keep it by the month. But it has a lot of information because I can see by month. I can see the actual usage in my tenant and see, for example, the amount of data views. So I'm in this per month or per day. I always show the logs, so the total logs, and also what the amount of data views and the data view. So logs is everything. An export operation is a log. Analyzing Excel is a log. Creating a report is a log. And then viewing a report is also a log. Viewing a dashboard, analyzing in Excel is a log. So data views is what I consider to be something like a view of data. So it's view report, it's analyzing Excel, it's view dashboard. So it's a filter over the logs, but focusing on report views. And I can see that, okay, it's growing. In this line over here, in the green line, it's authoring logs. So creating a report, creating a dashboard, editing a report. So, and this is very important to measure if you are trying to implement a self-service strategy in your company. You want to know if the users are creating reports more and more and more each month. If the self-service and the creation of the reports is growing each month. So, and I can see that, yes, it's grown from November to December, but then it decreases in January and it's decreasing in February. And if I want to know why it decreased, I can also use another amazing feature of Power BI, that is explain the decrease. So I can see, okay, the analysis, it decreased 1% in authoring, and the reason was, okay, the user agent. So this is not very important. I can see, okay, poor choice of fields. I don't want to, this is not important for me, but I can see that, okay, this user, our demo user, so actually it's a user that I own, and Simone was the users that contributed the most in this case for the increase of the decrease of the usage. So, and I can go just scrolling down and see, okay, this is a report in this case, or a data set. So this data set also accounted was one of the biggest responsible for this decrease. I also like to see in this view, because in here, so everything that is below the red, it contributed the most. The green, it was the increases. So I can even over it and see that in December, this report has 12 views, and in January, 44 or authoring experiences. And the sales, it's the opposite. So analyze and explain increase and decrease is really important. And in below, I can also see the distinct users. So similar to the chart on the right, but in here, it's I'm seeing it by month. So I can see that, okay, I have a steady amount of distinct users every month. And of course, looking at the user, so the most active user in the whole tenant is actually a service principal. So this is the service principal that is collecting this data every day, so that it's normal. I could even just, okay, because this is an outlier, I could, for example, exclude it, because I don't want to look at this as an outlier, because this is actually a service account. But for example, Leandro is the most active user, and I can click on Leandro and see what he's using. So I can see that he uses mostly the Power BI support samples. I can see that he uses these two Power BI applications, and these are the data sets that he uses. So he's the most active user in the company, and I can see what he's doing. Then let me just go back. Then I can see by workspace, what's the most active workspace in the company. When I click on the workspace, I can see the other way around. So Rui Barbosa, which is our CEO, he uses mostly the manager cockpit. So this is sales figures inside the company. And I can see from workspace to the users, and then in the workspace, all the data sets that exist in this workspace. So this first page is just looking at the activity for the entire tenant. And this is important for you to understand. So this is one difference between the out of the box, because this is collecting all the data from the entire tenant. So you need to actually have an account or a service principal, in this case, with admin privileges to get this information. But I think that you are realizing that when you have this is really important to look at, because this will give you the prioritization. So you, for example, if I'm the BI admin in this company, I would say that Leandro is a user that I should give more attention, because he's using this every day. So if I want to upgrade Power BI, if I want to deploy a new feature, if I want to activate a new preview feature, I should probably speak to Leandro, because he will be impacted by this. Okay. And if I want to upgrade, if I want to deploy a new version of a Power BI application or a Power BI dataset, I know I can see that, for example, the manager data model or the time reports model is mostly used during these hours. So these are the best hours to do that deploy. And if I want to deploy a new version of the time reports model, then Rui Romano, so I would speak to myself, I would be the mostly impacted one. And this is also very, very important. So I use mobile, but all the others, they don't use mobile. And why this is important? Because, let me see here. Okay, this one. Imagine this. I could deploy a huge amount of effort developing a mobile experience for this report, the human resources sample, and no one uses mobile. So, and every time I want to deploy a new version, I will develop that mobile view of the report. I will spend time and effort and money on it, and no one uses. So if no one uses, maybe I should stop doing it. And how do I know that no one uses? Because I'm using at the logs, and no one is using mobile. Everyone is using the browser, and the unknown should be, so if there is a service principal, so is just connecting with a script, so there is no user agent here. So, but in contrast, the manager data model, so it's very important to have a mobile experience, because the CEO always uses mobile. So in this, it's maybe the mobile experience is more important than the desktop experience. So this is really important, guys. So it's something that if you have any responsibility in a Power BI tenant, just start using it, collecting this data and looking at it, because this will probably change your perspective on what's important and what's not. And then I have another page, also on activity, but more focused on the report activity. So reports, it's probably the most important asset in a Power BI development, the reports and data sets. So reports is what's going to be published to the users. So when I can see, okay, the distinct users, I have a measure that will calculate the trend. So I can see the top reports. So the cockpit report is the most used report inside the company, and it has a stale trend. Now, what's the trend? If you filter a period here, the trend is as simple as I will get. I will get I will collect the logs for this period. I will collect the logs for the similar period before, and I will calculate a trend KPI, and I will show it. So this is important if there is a report, and in here is mostly important, maybe not for admins, but for the business unit owner or the department owner that want to make sure that the report is actually being used, and if it's growing, if the adoption of that report is growing month by month or day by day. And of course, I can click it and I can see that the cockpit, these are the active users. They all come from, or mostly from mobile, and it has a stale trend currently. Okay, and this is activity. Now let's look at the catalog. So the catalog it's a more simplistic view. So, and I actually opted, and I will speak about the model in a minute, to split and to separate completely catalog from the activity. So the activity is a single table with all information, and then I have the catalog as a separate tables, a star schema that will show, okay, in the entire tenant, I have 338 workspaces. I have more than 400 dashboards. I have more than 1,000 reports, more than 1,000 data sets. So there is a lot of data sets at the DevScope tenant. And I can see, for example, I have 67 personal workspaces. So I'm just looking at workspaces with content. So we have more than 67 personal workspaces, but these are 67 personal workspaces with content. And my workspace, my personal workspace, is the biggest one. So I have 164 reports. I don't know. I lost control, so that's kind of it's similar to my desktop, my personal workspace in Power BI. So in this tenant, there is a lot of content inside the personal workspaces, and this could be a warning sign for you as a Power BI admin, because maybe you literally want to avoid this. You don't want to. Okay, personal workspace is a place to have personal content. It's not a place, if people are sharing content outside of this personal workspace, then it's something that you need to worry about. And we also have the groups. So the groups is the old Office 365 groups that has Power BI content. So this is something, because this will get deprecated, this is something that I need to look at and start planning the upgrade. And then you have, of course, the workspaces. And I can see what's the biggest workspaces inside my company. I can see what's who are the users that are actually creating data sets, and I can click on a user and see, okay, this user created data sets in all these workspaces. This has a table or a matrix. I can see from the workspace to the data set and then to the report. This is taking care of the shared data sets also. So if I have a data set and there is a report outside of the workspace, it will show also in here. And this report is also very, very useful. For example, to just come here and filter by report ID. So if you want to, for example, you have a premium capacity, you receive a report that is saying that the specific data set ID is having performance issues, and you just want to filter it, and you can see who is the creator of that workspace, of that data set, where that data set exists, what reports that data set has. So the catalog is just looking at the catalog, what exists inside the tenant. Inside the catalog, there is also a very important information or metadata that as a BI admin, it's very important to know. It's the data sources. So I have 635 data sources in my entire tenant. Mostly it's files, and I can click and I can see, okay, this data set has files in it. It was configured by Antonio, and this is the file. And remember what I talked in the beginning. So I could want to have a policy in my Power BI tenant to never use a local file. So I could look at this, okay, and find files that start with D, with C, with a file system path, notice the user to migrate this to OneDrive, for example. So, and of course, I can look at other data sources, SQL, OData, web APIs. Okay, what web API, which web APIs we are using inside the company. And I also have a search in here, so I can search for a specific database, so CRM, and see, okay, if there is any Power BI connection to with a data source that has CRM in the name or in the path. Okay, so data sources is also some, and when you look at this at the tenant level, it's a very important piece of information to know about what does exist, what are which data sources are you using or are your developers using inside the company. Last but not least, looking at the security configuration for every report. So a simple matrix, for example, on this workspace, I have 3 admins. They are all users. I have 2 apps, two service principals. One is an admin, another is a member, and I have 1 security group that is an admin. So just looking at for the entire workspaces in the entire tenant, the security configuration on each workspace. And of course, I can look, okay, just give me the admins and look at the admins, okay? One thing that I forgot that is also very important, it's the drill through. So let's see, if I want to know, imagine that I want to just go to a specific day and a specific user. And now I want to actually see the logs of this user. I can do multiple clicks using the control, and then right click, drill through, activity detail. And this will go to a page that will give me the full detail. And what I mean about the full detail is the actual log entry, including the entire user agent, even the client IP of which IP address does this user come from when access this report, and the entire information. So, and I can export it and share it or look at it in another tool if I want. Okay, let me just go back to the users, and the last one is looking at licenses. So, and in big companies, this is really, really important because you can buy like 400 licenses, and it's important to know if, for example, if you assign a license to a user, if she or he is actually using it. And this report makes your life easy on it. So you have a slicer in here, you can just focus on Power BI activity with a paid Power BI license, and this will show me that I have 65 or I have 50 users in the whole tenant with a license that they never used Power BI since November. So, and maybe I could pick these licenses and give to someone else. And of course I can drill down and see which users are not active are in here, and talk to them and understand why they are not using Power BI. Maybe they are struggling or having some issues, and if they don't need it, maybe I shouldn't pay for the license, or I can assign the license to someone else. Okay, now let's go back to the slides. So this is what you get in the end. Okay, this is the full demo. The end result of this presentation is to actually have this Power BI report. Lorenzo, how much time do I have?
10 minutes.
10 minutes. Okay. So one more time, I won't go, and I cannot go to the details of the code and out, because that's there is a script behind the scenes to collect this data. I will just briefly explain you, but the idea is, and focus more on getting an understanding why you need this. and just drop me an email and I will share the code with you. But the architecture of what I built is like this. So I use the Power BI REST API to get the metadata and the audit. So the catalog and the activity. And for that, I have two scripts. I have one PowerShell. I'm using PowerShell because that's the easiest for me. But you can use Python. You can use whatever language you want, or whatever. You can even use logic apps for this to fetch and connect to this API. So I have two PowerShell scripts, one for the activity and another for the one for the catalog, and another for the activity. And this is for the catalog and the activity logs in Power BI. For the users, to get the username and to get the licenses, I use the Graph API. So the Graph API is a Microsoft API that you can use and with a proper permission. So this is actually optional for the Power BI to work. But with this will get you the licenses. So you'll get, and not only the licenses, but for the user ID, so the email, because on the activity logs, you don't get the display name of the user. I also connect to the user's API to get the display name. I store all the data in a folder, in a file system. And then I have a Power BI report that it's a straightforward report. It's not too complex, that gets this information, transforms the information and prepares the information ready for the report that I just showed you. And this is one of the possibilities of the architecture that you want to build. So normally, if you ask me if I do this in customers, no, normally I build something like this, completely in Azure without using any kind of local scripts and local file systems. But for the sake of simplicity and to be able to easily share with you and for you to be able to run it, I will show you the PowerShell script. But maybe that one of many possibilities to solve this in a more elegant way will be like using an Azure function, and instead of using the local file system, store it in the data lake or a blob storage, and then the Power BI will connect to the blob storage. I will also show you a way for you to easily switch between folders to a data lake if you want. Okay, this is the architecture. Now, regarding the data sources, here is a table with all the links of the APIs that I'm using. So let me just go to one of them. So we are talking about the Power BI REST APIs, the admin APIs. So for example, for the catalog, I use a new API. This came out in December. That is an async API that you call and get. Okay, give me all the workspaces that were modified since the last scan, and then you need to call another 3 APIs to get the scan status and the scan results, and this is asynchronous, and it's way faster. So in the past, to get this information, you needed to use this API, the get groups as admin. It worked quite well, but it was much more slower than this one. This is way faster. Okay. Now, another thing that is important to talk about is to connect to these APIs, you need to use OAuth. I'm not a specialist in OAuth, so maybe I will say something wrong, but you have 3 possible authentication flows with this API. The recommended one and the one that I'm going to use is the client credentials flow. So you need to create an Azure Active Directory service principal. So you won't use your account. And if you want to automate this, you shouldn't use an actual account. So you should use a service principal. And to use a service principal, you need to, if you are a Power BI admin, you can do it yourself. If you are not a Power BI admin, you need to ask the Power BI admin to authorize this service principal to connect to the APIs. Another option is using device code authentication. And if you use device code authentication, and here you can actually use your own account or a Power BI administrator account without storing the username and password on the script. And of course, you can also use the username and password flow. I don't recommend doing it, because if you go on this path, you need to store the password of the Power BI admin in the script, or even if you store it in the key vault. This is actually an account that can log into your tenant as an admin. So yes, the service principal, it's also an admin service principal, but it will only have rights to read, and it's not something that you can log into as an admin into the Power BI tenant. So this is the recommendation. This is the one that I'm using on the script. The first step is just to create the service principal. Now I will keep on the slides just to because I won't have much time left. But this is the steps that you need to do to create a service principal. So you need to go to the Active Directory. You need to start a new app registration. You need to create an Azure Active Directory security group, because in the Power BI admin portal, you need to authorize that security group, and you cannot authorize a single user or service principal. So you need to create a service principal, create a security group, place or add a service principal to the security group, and then authorize the security group in the Power BI admin portal. And then in the Power BI, in the Azure Active Directory, after creating the service principal, you need to generate a new application secret, and you need to store that application ID and application secret and tenant ID, and save that into a configuration file. And optionally, if you want to go and fetch the users and the licenses, you need to also authorize the Graph API. So this service principal needs to be authorized to go to the Graph API. So, and after this, you have a milestone. So if you do this, then and if your Power BI admin or the IT admin gives you this authorization, then you no longer need them. So you have everything you need to extract the data, to store the data, and to build the Power BI dataset. Then the first script is the Power BI audit log script. So this script is basically, it just have, in all the scripts, they have a configuration file like this that will store the application ID, the secret, and the tenant ID. And for each script, I always store, so for the catalog, the timestamp of the last run. Why and the activity, also the timestamp of the last time I fetched this data. Why do I do this? Because the next time I run, I want to start, so on the activity, I don't want to go 30 days back. So by the way, if you are not collecting this data, you are losing data, because you only have, in the APIs, they can only give you 30 days of data. But every time I run it, I don't want to get the same data every time. So I store the last timestamp, and I start from that. So if I run the script today, this will only, and if I ran yesterday, so it will start from yesterday until today. So it will only collect 2 days of data. So this uses the Power BI admin API, and it's literally, it's a 100 or 200 script code in PowerShell that is literally day by day is just fetching the activity logs per day and storing that activity logs in the file system. So in a folder like this. So it's a JSON file. For each day, I will have the activity log. Then the catalog. So the catalog is a little bit more complex because I'm using that async API. So I need to start by, okay, give me all the workspaces that changed since last time. If you don't give the date, it will give you all the workspaces in the tenant. So the first, if you are talking about a tenant with 5,000 or 50,000 workspaces, then this will take a while on the first run, and then it will run incrementally on the next run. So it will be very fast. One thing that you need to worry about in all these APIs is the throttling. So some of these APIs are throttling. So for example, the modifier, the async APIs, it has throttling like, okay, you can only call this API 500 times per hour. So if this is a big tenant, the first run, so if it's a 5,000 or 50,000 workspace tenant, then the first time you will get throttling. So I've done a simplistic implementation of throttling. So I catch the 499 exception, and I wait for the retry after. So normally this is around 1 hour, and the script will just wait for 1 hour and then resume. Okay. So this async API is missing one data, that is a user and the roles, and for that I need to go to another API in the Power BI admin, that is the get groups. That admin gets groups with the expand users just to get the users, because this doesn't come on the scan API. The last script is the users and licenses. So this is connecting to the Graph API. It's a very simplistic script. I think it's the smallest one. I'm just calling the Graph API and doing a query, getting the users and the subscribed SKUs. And I store this in a file. Okay. This is a paginated API, so you need to do some code to do the pagination of the API. It's not a big deal, but it's something that you need to do, and I'm doing it on the script. One more time, we need to worry about throttling. All of these APIs have throttling. To be honest with you, if we are talking, I only have throttling issues when we are talking of workspaces and tenants with more than 20,000 around that. Otherwise, the script will run in less than 5 minutes, all the scripts. And one other milestone. So we extracted and we stored all the data that we want, that we need. And next, we need to build a Power Query to transform this data. So this is the Power BI implementation. So it seems complex, but I'll be honest with you, it's not that complex. Two things that you need to have in mind. The first one is all the date times are in UTC. So if you are working with a company in the United States, for example, you need to do the time zone offset. And for that, I have a parameter. And when you specify a time zone offset, I will apply this offset to all the date times. And I'm using a technique. I have a link that explains this technique better, that is calling the proxy query. And why I use this, because this is getting data from files, and the files can be in the file system, but the files can also be in a data lake. So normally what I do when I have this situation is I have a query called activity files, and this activity files, all the others connect to these activity files. So I have activity row and activity. And if I want to change the source, I just need to change the source of this query to target the activities from folder. If I want to change to blob storage, I just need to implement another query that implements the same schema and go to activity files and target the other source. And I don't need to change all the others. So for example, on the catalogs, you can see that I have a lot of queries that depend on catalog files. And if I change the source, I don't need to change all of this. I only need to change the catalog files and everything will work. So this is called, I call this the proxy query. And I can tell you that this is really, really useful. And you can even go to databases. So if you want to start storing this data on a database, you can just switch the catalog files to the files that come from a database and everything will work. And regarding the dataset, we have two models. So I have two models in one, the catalog, so report datasets, dashboards, users, data sources, and the activity. So the activity is a simple star schema. Everything is in a single table. So this is a representation of that activity log, and it has the time, the calendar, and the user around it. So this is the model. One more time, for a seasoned Power BI developer, this is very, very simplistic. And I will share with you the Power BI implementation. So in the model is of course where we have all the measures, the reports, the data sets, the reports, the days without activity. And another milestone, we built a data set. And last but not least, the report. So the report is what I showed you in the beginning, a few details as drill through and all the charts. So you can always go to the granular detail It has a theme, so theme is very important. If I want to deploy this in a different company with a different logo and different colors, I can easily share change the theme and everything will change. You need to also worry about no activity. It has a report that I didn't show, the no activity analysis. So I just want to know which reports are not being used for more than 38 days. And I have a slider in here. I just slide it and see everything that has no activity in more than X days. And it makes use and be smart about the advanced AI features that you have in Power BI, like increase, decrease, anomaly detection, forecast. So you can use all of this to leverage to have more advanced analysis over this data. And that's it. So I know that's it's a lot. So I didn't even show you the code. I didn't have the time for it, but I will share all the PowerShell codes with you. It's not if you don't know how to PowerShell, or you don't have the skills to program, someone will inside your company or some friend will. So you can always ask for help. Just drop me an email and I will gladly share the code with you. But the most important thing is look at this data. This is very, very important data, not only for the admin, for the BI admin, and also for the users to know, for example, if the app they built, the report they built is actually being used. And if it's not used, they can react on it. So they can be more proactive inside the Power BI implementation. Please fill out the survey. It's very important for the organization and also for myself to collect feedback about this session. And don't forget to do it. I think that you will see this slide in all the presentations, but please do it. And thank you. These are my contacts. If you just drop me an email and I will be glad to help you setting this up. Okay, and that's it.